Hello and welcome to our Women's Health online event to celebrate the Seed Cycle's first birthday. I am Melissa Kovacevic. I'm just going to change the view on this so we can record a bit better. And I am the founder of the Seed Cycle. We're on a big mission to help women balance their hormones naturally. I have with me our first guest, Cyndi O'Meara. Cyndi is an internationally acclaimed nutritionist with 40 years experience. She's a best-selling author, international speaker, and documentary creator. Cyndi is the founder of Changing Habits and the Nutrition Academy, which I'm a graduate of. And her greatest passion in life is educating others about the importance of nutrition. So thank you so much for joining us, Cyndi.
Thanks for having me. I always like to talk, so it's
amazing. Now, I have to say, I had the opportunity of meeting you a couple of years ago at the Changing Habits farm, and it was such a pinch me moment. I was very starstruck, as I am now. So I'm very, very grateful to have the opportunity to speak with you again.
If I remember rightly, you were heavily pregnant too.
I was pregnant. My son is almost 3 now.
Oh, wow.
And my daughter's 5. So I remember, organising the, I think I was maybe a year or so into my functional health Canberra business, and my daughter at the time, so I was organising her, and I came down to the Sunshine Coast, and it was just such a beautiful day.
It was a wonderful day with some incredible graduates that are doing amazing things, and you just go from strength to strength. So I'm like a proud mama. I'm a matriarch. I'm very proud of what my students and my graduates are now doing. Some have just gone to help their family, others have gone on to do things like you. It's just incredible what our students are doing. It's wonderful.
Well, I have to say, during my time at the Nutrition Academy, you taught me how powerful the relationship between the human body and nutrition was. And I carried this with me into my life, into my family, into my business, creating Functional Health Canberra and now the Seed Cycle. And it really, completing the Nutrition Academy changed my life. I was in the public service before then, and gaining that knowledge, and then and the confidence to then start my own business, and now a second business. It was incredible. But I would love for you to introduce our listeners to functional nutrition, and particularly the philosophy of vitalism.
Yeah. So the Nutrition Academy is founded on everything that I've done for the last 42 years. So 1980, I went to the University of Colorado in Boulder to do pre-med and to ski. That was my main aim. And I was allowed some electives. And one of the electives I did was anthropology, and then that followed with cultural anthropology. And it was anthropology and cultural anthropology that got me excited about food. I didn't know I wanted to be a nutritionist or a dietitian. So it got me really excited about food, because I realized that what helped us survive was our ability to use food, to find food, to look at food that was toxic and be able to make changes to it in order for it to be okay for us. And we had such an incredible culture around food that I thought, I want to help people with food. So that was the start of my understanding about cultural anthropology and the importance of food for human survival. And that has gone out the window. Culture, we've lost. We go to the grocery store, not we, you and I, but people out there, and I'm hoping, maybe some people who are listening might get a little bit of a, oh gosh, that's me. They go to the grocery store and they think that what is on the supermarket shelf is okay, and that they would never put anything on the supermarket shelf that would harm people's health, let alone children's health. But I can tell you that probably 85% of, if there's no organic food in that grocery store, I would say 100% of the food on the grocery store is now toxic to the human body and will make you inflamed and make you sick. I just feel that we need to start to really look at our agricultural practices, and that's why I created the documentary What's with Wheat. So cultural anthropology is a big part of the Nutrition Academy. The other part of the Nutrition Academy, which you've asked me to address, is vitalism. So vitalism is a form of healthcare or a form of thinking. So it's a philosophy that helps guide us in our thinking with nutrition. So for instance, there are two types of ways to look at nutrition these days. There is something called nutritionism, which is what I was taught as a dietitian. And nutritionism is where we look at the fats, the carbohydrates, the protein, the salts, the what vitamins are in there. And we look at that food for those qualities. And if it's got something in there that we don't agree with in science, such as saturated fat, we might deem that food as not a food that we should consume for health. So let's take butter, for instance. So butter is 50% saturated fat. Science has deemed saturated fat is bad for the heart. Remember, I've said deemed. I haven't said proved. I haven't said it is. It's what they've deemed is right. So we look at saturated fat and we go, well, there's 50% in butter. What's the other 50%? You have to ask that question. Well, there's factor X, there's omega-3s, there's butyric acid, which helps the gut. Like there's so many factors in that other 50% that why would you dismiss a perfectly incredible food that we've been eating through culture for thousands and thousands of years as herders, as domesticators of animals, we have been eating, that food. So we wiped that out and we bought margarine in because margarine didn't have saturated fat in it. It actually had a little bit, but not a lot. And it's a totally plastic, fantastic food, which we can talk about later. So this is, when I look at a food, I look for everything in that food. I look for that food for its innate intelligence, that it has come from ground and soil at the Changing Habits Farm, that we have worked everything to make that soil the best that we can make it, so that the animals and the plants that grow on my soil are the best. They have all the nutrients, all the phytonutrients, all the macronutrients combined together to be a perfect food for the human body, because that's what it's been for millions of years. We have eaten these foods. Now let's look at nutritionism in healthcare, and that's called mechanism. So mechanism in healthcare versus vitalism in healthcare goes like this. So if you have a heart problem, you go to your cardiologist and they will look at your heart. If you have a gastro problem, it's like a gut problems, you go to gastroenterologist and they'll look at your gut. If you have some joint issues, or you'll go to someone who can help you, like a rheumatologist. If you've got neurological issues, you go to a neurosurgeon. So we go to these people because we have something wrong with our body. And the heart surgeon will never look at the gut, and the gastroenterologist will never look at the heart, and the nervous system guy will never look at your diet. And basically what happens is that you end up looking at one part of the body, and that's mechanism. And vitalism in healthcare is you are an innate intelligence. Give it the right ingredients, such as food, sunshine, movement, connection, I said sunlight, sleep. All of those things are important for us to be vital human beings and live our vitalistic lifestyle, that we can be the best that we can possibly be, the healthiest that we can possibly be. Now, both are important. I have to tell you that. So when you're having a heart attack, you don't want anybody asking about your diet, your gastro issues, nothing like that. You want to know exactly that they are going to get that heart started again. Then you can go and do vitalism. But mechanism is so important. What's happened in healthcare and nutrition and everything is that we've moved so far across to mechanism and nutritionism that we've forgotten vitalism. And what I teach at the Nutrition Academy with cultural anthropology is vitalism and cultural anthropology to be your guiding light, so that when something comes on and it says, oh, margarine's better than butter, you're going to go, well, anthropologically, we haven't been eating it that long. And vitalistically, it's a manipulated fat where man has gone, that butter is no good, we'll make it better, and they do that with all food, like what they're doing to our food supply is really scary. And that's why I bought a farm, Mel. That's why I bought it 7 years ago. I knew long before 7 years ago, but it was only, I had that opportunity to have that farm then. I would have bought 20 years ago if I could have. But 7 years ago, I had the opportunity to buy this farm, and I bought it because I didn't trust the food industry. I didn't trust, and you look at what is happening today, and, meat is bad. And they want us to kill all our cows.
Yeah.
You know, eggs are bad, and they want us to eat just eggs or fake meat. There is this incredibly bad narrative that they're not using nature anymore. What they're using is all this mechanism. And they're saying, we can make it better. We can make it taste better because we've got all these ways that we can make flavors, you know. And the ways they make flavors is lots of chemicals, genetically modified microorganisms on genetically modified substrates, creating what they think is a natural flavor. They're now using, and I wrote an article on this just recently, they're using artificial intelligence to trick the brain into you thinking you're eating meat when you're not. They're using in studies and research for these flavors and this artificial intelligent human embryos. And this is where the trade for abortions are happening, is to that. And I believe it's a woman's choice to choose what she wants. What I don't agree with is what they're doing with these embryos. And so I think more women need to start asking the question, where's that going to go? I don't want it going to research. Nothing is, you know, like I'm just sick with what they're doing in the flavor industry. And so people think they're eating food. It tastes like food, looks like food, smells like food, but it's not food. And that's what's at the supermarket shelf.
And I was in that situation 20 years ago where I was obsessed with losing weight. I was in the whole 80s low-fat revolution. I was looking at packaging for low-fat products. I was in meal replacement shakes and all that, and I was just getting sicker and putting on more weight. And that's why when I started looking for a solution, because none of the diets worked, and I studied nutrition to begin with, and then I came across functional nutrition. And when you first introduced me to the concept of vitalism, it totally shifted my relationship with food. I saw it. I was like, yes, food is medicine. I get it. And I started looking at what was not the calories anymore, but the ingredients. And you know, then that took years to really switch out all those and understand it. And that's what then now I do with my clients. But the other thing that you taught me at the Nutrition Academy was to investigate and to ask questions. And what I found with the clients that I was working with was we were making really good improvements in their health, with their nutrition, we're using EFT tapping to help with stress and underlying emotions and trauma. But then it would get to that time of the month and the PMS symptoms would hit, the cravings would hit, and these women were really struggling. And I knew that, and a lot of them were on the pill, and that was meant to, not for contraception, that was meant to help with the PMS symptoms or the irregular periods or whatever it was for these clients. And it wasn't helping. And I knew that there had to be a natural solution. I wanted to turn to food. And basically I just started Googling like natural solutions for hormone imbalances, natural, natural foods that can assist. And I came across seed cycling, and then it started ticking all the boxes. It was a food as medicine technique. It was using natural seeds and the nutrients in the seeds, and it was an intuitive practice where you're tuning into your body and having these certain seeds based on your own menstrual cycle or the moon phases, which we've used throughout history to help balance and cycle our menstrual cycles. So it was really what I had learned that led me to seed cycling, and then there was another step to it where a lot of my clients who I knew seed cycling could help, they kept forgetting to buy the seeds, and then you have to grind them up, and then you have to remember to take them. So I would say to my husband, I'm going to create this little program within Functional Health Canberra where I'm going to send my clients these seed blends. And he came back to me and obviously did some research, and he's like, this is a really good idea, Mel. I'll invest. Doesn't sit under Functional Health Canberra. Let's go big with this. This is a whole nother business. And yeah, now we're a year in, and it's been incredible.
Yeah, and then we are using foods, and I always see the seed as a little bit like our wombs. and we can use them through our cycles. I remember my daughter did that for quite some time. She did the seed cycling, and I found it fascinating that we have figured this out. You know, and it's through cultures, and now it's through science that allows us to do that. But we have to be very careful with science, because when you look at science, you can see something that says margarine's better than butter. Let's just say we're going to throw that one in there again. And if you do that whole vitalism and that whole cultural anthropology, you go, but hang on, margarine's a completely manipulated food. Butter's a whole food. Butter we've used for thousands of years. Margarine we've only just started to use. And we can do the same with the pill versus seed cycling. The pill is a manipulation of your cycle. And it doesn't take much, because it's a tiny little thing in order for it to manipulate your cycle. And they're not telling anybody that it's a class 1 carcinogen. That every doctor should be telling anyone that they put on the pill that it's a class 1 carcinogen. And it changes your fertility. It's not about it stopping ovulation. It's actually stopping your whole cycle. That's what it does. It completely changes your cycle. Whereas with seed cycling, and I understand there's contraception there, but when people are using the pill for their skin, for PMS, for heavy menstrual cycles, for, you know, it's like they're not looking at the whole body. They're just saying, oh, your progesterone is too high, your estrogen is too low, or whatever it is, or vice versa. Oh, you haven't got enough testosterone. And then they just manipulate it with these. And I just wish more young women realized that by doing this, you are going to set up a pattern. And are you ready to have that pattern be a consequence in the end? And that's what it is. It's a consequence. Whereas seeds we've eaten for thousands and thousands and thousands and like generations, you know, like, and we've learned to use herbs as well. You know, Queen Anne's lace was often used as a contraception. And the Australian Aboriginal people had their way of contraception. So, you know, I love this, and I love that you are bringing this tradition to the masses. And that's what we need to do, is start getting these traditions and cultures back, and women start to understand it. And now, you know, when I had babies, so my babies are in their 30s, when I had babies, you know, we had nothing but the withdrawal method for contraception. But what is now out there, like those little overcues and all those, like, they're just brilliant. I had to put the thermometer in, figure out where I was, have little red stickers, green stickers. Just like, oh my God. It was on the back of the toilet door for all to see.
It's interesting, because when I think back to my teenage years, we all just got given the pill, and I think I got on it for not for contraception, because all my friends were saying it helps your skin, because that's what the doctors were telling them. And I luckily I got on it, and then I just had this, I didn't like it. I don't know why, I just didn't like it, and I got off it and I didn't go on it again. But you know, I could have been in the same position a lot of people are at my age, 35, where they've been on the pills from that time and then too scared to get off because, oh, your skin's going to break out and you're going to have all these awful symptoms. So might as well just stay on it until they try to have a baby, and then, you know, maybe struggling, and the doctor's going, oh, well, it's not because of that, but is it? Anyway, so I'm really, you know, it's really exciting to me when, especially I've had a couple of clients who have used seed cycling for themselves, and then their daughters have got their periods and struggled with a little bit irregular and heavy periods, and they've gone, oh, wait, can I use seed cycling for my daughter? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, it's amazing that there's a lot more education around it now, and we have these natural ways of supporting our bodies. I do want to ask you, could you tell us more about the connection between hormonal balance, particularly for women, and in the human body, and diet, and what are the major things that mess with our hormones? Now, I know what you're going to say, but I think that it's really important for our listeners to understand what mess with our hormones, because then we can better support them.
If we look at the body vitalistically, it will be everything that you're consuming that will be either promoting your health, and therefore your hormone health, or we'll be degrading it. So in my way of thinking, we look at everything, and this is why we look vitalistically. If I was to say what would be affecting your cycle most, it would be the toxins in the environment. It would be the plastics that all of our food comes in. And I was listening to this webinar the other day. Oh, it was fabulous. And I'd never even thought of this. So when you buy like a food that you think has just been minced or something like that. Let's just take meat that might have been minced. It might have been minced in something plastic. And then that plastic, which is the phthalates, get into the meat. And therefore the meat's got the phthalates, even though there were no hormones in the meat to begin with. So there was all these things that I'd never even thought about. And that's, I guess, thank goodness I don't really have to think about it, because we do everything from scratch. We have our own cows, we have our own chickens, we have our own plants. So I haven't had to think about it. But for other people, I'm now kind of starting to think, I never thought of those things that were being processed like that. So many of the plastics, you know, it's all on about one of the plastics. I can't think of the name of it, BFA. So it's all about BFA, but they replaced the BFA with something just as bad. So it's not only the plastics, and this woman just said, never, ever put anything plastic in a microwave. She just said that. She said, you'll just pull out all the phthalates. So the phthalates, we know, we've got xenoestrogens as well. So these are things that fake themselves to be estrogen in the chemical world. So even glyphosate will affect your hormones. And that, you know, that's one of my bugbears is glyphosate, but there's many chemicals out there. So we have many things that are disrupting, from agriculture, from packaging, from processing. All of these things will be affecting your hormones, as well as what you put on your skin, your deodorant that you use, the shampoos that you use. And so when we look at a woman's cycle, we actually look at the whole picture. We just don't go, let's look at food, or let's look at this. We look at everything, but we start small and we build on it. So the first thing that I think is a problem with our cycles is from the beginning. Our babies are just drowning in chemicals. Let me give you an example. So my mother was born in 1937. So no chemicals were really being sprayed in 37. She was born in Iowa, USA. So not many chemicals were being sprayed then. By 38, they were spraying arsenic and lead on the cornfields, and she was a farmer's daughter. She was the first of 11 children, and they started to spray arsenic and lead. And then by 1945, they were spraying DDT. So 1958, my mum got pregnant with my sister. So in the middle of the DDT chemical, in the middle of the chemical revolution, in the middle of corn farming, Iowa, my mother gets pregnant with my sister. My mum is sick for 3 months, you know. You get where the point where you're not feeling too good in that first 3 months. So she gets sick for 3 months and doesn't eat a lot. So the fat reserves that she has laid down, that probably have DDT in it and may have some arsenic and lead, or maybe that's in her bones and her bones have leached it out. Who knows? My sister would have bathed in those chemicals because they were being released by my mother. Then, so then she's born, and my mum's dumped everything on her, and then I'm born 16 months later. So I think my mum was pretty clean when she had me. So I was fortunate. I never had menstrual issues, you know, like it was like a blink and an eye and I'd walk away from a menstruation. It was like 3 days, didn't know what was happening. You know, I wasn't 28 days, but I was 32 days, and I don't know why, but that's the way I was, and never any problems getting pregnant, nothing. And I think we as women and men need to do an absolute clean out before we even consider having babies now. They're saying there are 220 chemicals in the umbilical cord now, 220. A lot of them will be hormone disruptors. So we're polluting our kids from the day we're born, basically. And so I think about it this way. My mother, when my grandmother was born, she had my mum's egg and my egg in there. You know, that's why it just blows me away. You know, that's why you had that incredible connection. So she would have had, you know, those three in there. Those eggs were there. Mother, grandmother, mother, daughter are all there together and birthed. And my mum and my sister are both dead, and they both died from cancer. They both lived as healthy a life as they could possibly live. My sister was a little bit bad. She liked to smoke. But my mum did everything right. And she died young, and so did my sister die young. My brother and I were born in Australia. We were born right after my sister. And I just feel, and my dad died at 93 last year. So, and he was born in New Zealand. So I know I can only tell you what has happened in my family, and I can extend that family to the 11 siblings or the 10 siblings that my mother had. They're all gone apart from three. Three are still alive. And my mum was the oldest, and she would have been 84, and the youngest was my age, 62. So they should not be dead. They should not be gone. And they all died of, and they all got Budd-Chiari syndrome and this syndrome and oh my God, diabetes and cancer. And we had hemophilia, first time in a family. Like it was just, I just feel that unless we clean out as women, we're not giving our daughters and our sons a good chance. So that to me is imperative in this day and age. And I watched my son and my daughter-in-law do that. I watched my daughter and her husband do that. And they both had incredibly healthy children. So, you know, they're only in their first year of life. Well, one's 13 months and the other one's 9 months. But we have, you know, not had any need for any medications whatsoever. They are living healthy lives and doing the best that they possibly can, you know, and that's all we can hope for. So that starts back then. But if you're at a point where you haven't started back then what you need to do is clean out. No matter where you are in your life, you need to clean out. And the way to clean out is to clean your fat stores out. And so it is about losing fat stores. And we used to do it cyclical. So if we look at culture and traditions, we would gain weight in the summer when all the beautiful sweet fruits were around and we were sitting around eating foods from plants that we didn't need to chase. And then in the winter, we would have to chase animals because the plants weren't available anymore. So we'd have to get adventurous and go out and do that. And that's when we would lose weight. So we'd gain weight with the carbohydrates and the fat animals, and then we'd lose it in the winter. So if there was a volcano eruption and mercury and arsenic and lead were spewed in, we could eliminate that so that when the next cycle came around for us to have babies, then we were cleaned out. We don't do that anymore. And I believe we need to do it on a cyclical basis as women and as men. We need to do that cyclical weight loss. Doesn't matter. Like I know I had to make it down to 57 kilos in order to, and I'm at 60. I'm at 60 and I've been 60 as long as I can remember. But I had to push myself down to 57 kilos because I was getting migraines every single month on the first day of my period. And I had to push myself to lose that 3 kilos. And that is, I went down to 500 calories, meat and veg. That was it. 2 weeks, I didn't lose an ounce of weight, which is quite incredible. And in the last week, I had 5 days of migraines. I was incredibly sick because my body released whatever toxins were in that fat that was causing that migraine every single period. Because remember, your fat cells are hormone producers. They produce leptin, the master hormone. They produce 20 plus more hormones. So they are hormone producers. And if you've got some chemicals and some stuff in there, you need to eliminate it. So it's about pushing yourself to lose that. And you have to get on a regime to do that. But then you can gain that weight back again and gain it back clean. So that was, I pushed myself to do that after having 20 years of migraines. I pushed myself to do that. I haven't had a headache since that day, since that last week. And I kind of go, why did I not know this for that freaking 20 years? So what we, excuse me for swearing, a slight swear, but I'm so frustrated with myself that I didn't know that, but I also didn't have that protocol to do it, just like you with, you know, your knowledge. And as you gain knowledge, then you do better. And as I gained that knowledge, I did better. And as you do, we both do, Mel. We gain the knowledge, we do better. And I'm still gaining knowledge and still trying to do better. And then I pass it on to the Nutrition Academy. So what did I learn just recently? Then I sent it to Dr. Stephen Myers, who is, you know, he's the head of the Nutrition Academy. He's our professor. And I sent it to him and I said, this is really interesting. And it was about polyunsaturated fats and bedding into our system and what it's doing to our health. So I thought that was interesting too. And that's going back to margarine versus butter, you know, and everybody's been told that it's bad and we must have vegetable spreads now, not margarine, but vegetable spreads.
And what you said around what we put on our skin as well, like that, when I realized the link between our hormones and our health and what we put on our skin, because that gets absorbed through our bloodstream and then our bodies have to work hard to eliminate it, and heating foods in plastic, and, you know, it's all these things that you're just not aware of. And then when you do, it's like, wow. And then there are things that you can do, and like you said, then you know better and you do better, and often it's those little things and you know, I say this about seed cycling, like it's never just one thing, you know, but it's all the little things that you do, and often then there might just be that one little piece of the puzzle that's missing, like you with the migraines, and then you put that puzzle piece in and then everything gets even better. And so I love that you shared that with us. I would encourage everyone to go and check out the Nutrition Academy. Like I said at the beginning, it really changed my life. And the Changing Habits products as well. You're really an inspiration, and I am so grateful again to that you joined us. I would love to share some links with everyone so they know where to contact you. Anything else you want to share with us before we finish up today?
I think it's a step-by-step process that we've got to do this. It's like I said, as we learn, we do better. And it starts with, I believe it starts with nutrition, but some people start with exercise and they do really well with their exercise and they think, well, maybe if I eat better, I'll do better. So and they might be in some competition work. Like one of our graduates just made world natural fitness champion. Oh my gosh, she went to Italy and she made, I'm a proud mama. Yeah. I just am blown away by what my students are doing, and she's done it naturally. No, not doing it with bad foods or bad proteins or anything like that. She did it completely naturally and she made the world. She did world champion. So I think, and she did it step by step. You know, hers was exercise was her thing. And then she just went from there and went, okay, maybe I can do something else. So if we change one thing and make it manageable and make it part of your life and then go into the next thing. And seed cycling is so easy. It's just eating. We love eating. So, you know, it is consuming it at the right time, you know, and it's like I said, summers and winters, we did things differently. Morning and night, we did things differently. So we may not have had any food in the morning because we hadn't caught our food. So we fasted through the morning, and that's what they're now calling intermittent fasting. So there are all of these things that we can learn about, take on board, see what works for us, and keep going. Imagine today, if your listeners who are listening right now, imagine if they changed one thing, and then the next week they change the next thing. They'll change 52 things in 1 year. Imagine their life. Now imagine that they change nothing, and what happens in a year. Probably they'll be worse, if not the same. Yeah. But they won't be better. Whereas when you start to upgrade your life and, you know, and to make those changes, and even if it is just one thing a week, so a salt habit or the seed cycling or eating better or whatever it is that you're doing, imagine where you will be in 12 months time. And I didn't know that about you, Mel, that your life was revolved around the low fat and everything. Like, it's so funny because when I see my students, I think they've been doing it their whole life.
No, and that's what the heating food in plastic. I think about all those disgusting Weight Watcher meals I was eating to try to be healthy and lose weight, heating them in the microwave at work, and but you know, that's the thing. We can change these things. I love. I've had quite a few seed cycling customers come to us and to me and say, oh, because I have to incorporate the seeds in my meal, that I'm choosing better options, and then it's keeping me fuller, and I think I've lost weight. And it's like, And I'm thinking more about my hormones, and so it is just changing that one thing or taking that one step, but then it snowballs and things start to change really quickly. And that definitely happened for me, and I love that others can do that as well. So thank you.
Call that keystone habit, by the way.
Yes.
So it's called the keystone habit. It's the habit that you do that then just everything rolls off past it. So your keystone habit for some of your women is the seed cycling. So well done. Amazing.
Thank you again for joining me. I look forward to everyone being able to watch the rest of the videos. Thank you.
Thanks, Mel.